Good evening, councilors. Good evening, residents who may be joining us on Brockton Community Access Television. This is a meeting of the Brockton City Council for Monday, March 22nd, 2021. This meeting is being held in accordance with Governor Charlie Baker's emergency order signed in 2020, which allows a public body to meet remotely, provided we have alternative means for the public to view the proceedings and any votes that are taken. This meeting is also being recorded. I do note that we have a quorum. Councilors, would you please join me in a pledge of allegiance to the flag? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, councilors. Mr. Clerk, agenda item number 1.
The acceptance of the minutes of the March 8th, 2021 City Council meeting.
Accepted and filed. Item number 2.
Of Manuel Centeo of 29 Kenneth Ave, Brockton, to the Brockton Community Cable Television Board for a 3-year term ending March 2024.
Referred to the Finance Committee.
Appointment of John McGarry of 68 Cambo Street, Brockton, to the License Commission as an alternate for a 3-year term ending March 2024.
Referred to the Finance Committee.
Report of the Finance Committee for its meeting of March 15th, 2021.
Accepted and filed.
A communication from the mayor submitting a letter of resignation from Robert J. Pelagi of 87 Westfield Drive, Brockton, from the Planning Board effective April 9th, 2021.
Accepted and filed.
Communication from the mayor notifying the City Council that Robert J. Pelagi of 87 Westfield Drive, Brockton, has resigned from the Zoning Board of Appeals as an alternate member effective March 1st, 2021.
Accepted and filed.
From the Chief of Police Department requesting authorization to expend donated funds from the Cape Verdean Association to be used towards the purchase of a new canine and equipment as needed for the Brockton Police Department in the amount of $1,000.
Accepted and filed.
From the mayor recommending the same.
Accepted and filed.
From the CFO relative to the same.
Accepted and filed.
From the Chief of the Police Department requesting authorization to expend donated funds to be used exclusively to purchase two new canines, cruiser, and equipment as needed for the Brockton Police Department in the amount of $50,000. The donor wishes to remain anonymous.
Accepted and filed.
From the mayor recommending the same.
Accepted and filed.
From the CFO relative to the same.
Accepted and filed.
From the Deputy Director of Contracts and Records for MassDOT submitting a signed agreement relative to the Shared Streets Grant in the amount of $165,100 regarding the Main Streets project in Brockton.
Accepted and filed.
From the mayor recommending the same.
Accepted and filed.
From the CFO relative to the same.
Accepted and filed.
From the Chief of the Police Department requesting authorization to expend grant monies related to the FY 2021 National Crime Victims' Rights Week Community Awareness Project sub-grant in the initial amount of $5,000.
Accepted and filed.
From the mayor recommending the same.
Accepted and filed.
From the CFO relative to the same.
Accepted and filed.
From the Chief of the Police Department requesting authorization to expend grant monies related to the FY 2021 First Responders Naloxone Grant from the Massachusetts Department of Public Health, Bureau of Substance Addiction Services in the amount of $9,240 distributed between the police and fire departments as needed.
Accepted and filed.
From the mayor recommending the same.
Accepted and filed.
From the CFO relative to the same.
Accepted and filed.
From the Chief of the Police Department requesting authorization to expend grant monies in the amount of $1,300 related to the 2021 Massachusetts Unwanted Opioid and benzodiazepine product stewardship program.
Accepted and filed.
From the mayor recommending the same.
Accepted and filed.
From the CFO relative to the same.
Accepted and filed. Councilors, we now go to unfinished business, item number 25.
Mr. President?
Yes, Councilor Thompson.
Yes, Mr. President, before we move on to unfinished business, I was hoping that we could take agenda item number 14 under a suspension of the rules and for the council to act on this matter tonight.
All right, a motion has been made to take item 14 under suspension of the rules and act this evening. Is there a second?
If I could just give a little background on the,
Second.
I'm requesting it.
Motion made and seconded. Go ahead, Councilor Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. So the reason for acting under a suspension of the rules is that, so as stated, this is a $165,000 grant that will allow the city to transform the old bat bus terminal behind Joe Angelo's into a new public space to host community events that will be called Sycamore Grove. The reason for taking this matter under this suspension of rules is that under this grant, it is required that the grant monies be spent May 1st of 2020. And we need time to make that happen. So I ask that this matter move forward under suspension of the rules and that we vote on it tonight. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President,
Councilor Cruz.
actually, I believe item 14 is just the communication. I think it's item 35 that you want to take under suspension. I could be wrong, but
That's correct, Councilor Cruz.
Then I apologize. I jumped the gun here. Then I withdraw my motion and I'll wait until item 35 to make same motion. I apologize, Mr. President. And,
No apology needed. Thank you, Councilor. Unfinished business, item number 25, Mr. Clerk.
The appointment of James Sweeney of 33 Montrose Street, Brockton, to the Planning Board for a 5-year term ending March 2026.
If there's
In
no-
City Council,
It is on confirmation by a roll call vote.
Azak,
Yes.
Cardoza,
Yes.
Cruz,
yes.
Eaniri,
Yes.
Farwell,
Yes.
Lally,
Yes.
Mendez,
Yes.
Monahan,
Yes.
Nicastro,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Thompson.
yes,
11 in the affirmative.
Confirmation is granted. Item number 26.
the appointment of Laura Beekler of 37 Fern Ave, Brockton, to the Conservation Commission for a 3-year term ending March 2024. In City Council, March 8th, 2021, read and referred to the Standing Committee on Finance. That report was favorable.
My apologies, Mr. Clerk. On number 25, I didn't allow you to report the favorable recommendation. But on item number 26, the recommendation was favorable out of finance. If there's no further discussion, the question is on confirmation by a roll call vote. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Azak,
Yes.
Cardoza,
Yes.
Cruz,
Yes.
Eaniri,
Yes.
Farwell,
Yes.
Lally,
Yes.
Mendez,
Yes.
Monahan,
Yes.
Nicastro,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Thompson.
yes,
11 in the affirmative.
Confirmation is granted. Item 27.
Ordered that the request made by the mayor on behalf of the DPW Commissioner Larry Rowley that there be a hearing on the executive summary for the Integrated Water Infrastructure Vulnerability Assessment and Economic Development Plan for Climate Resiliency for the City of Brockton by Fuss and O'Neill to address questions and concerns by the City Council pertaining to the report. In City Council, March 8th, 2021, read and referred to Standing Committee on Finance. That report was favorable.
If there's no discussion, the question is on adoption by a roll call vote. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Azak,
Yes.
Cardozo,
Yes.
Cruz,
yes,
Eaniri,
yes,
Farwell,
Yes.
Lally,
yes,
Mendez,
Yes.
Monahan,
yes,
Nicastro,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
yes,
Thompson.
Yes.
11 in the affirmative.
The resolve is adopted. Item number 29.
Resolved that the mayor and the chief financial officer of the city come before the finance committee to discuss the status of establishing a fund and allocation of said fund relative to the marijuana impact tax fees, and to further discuss any taxes which have already been received from the marijuana impacts tax fees and how those funds have been spent in the city. Be it further resolved that the city council recommend to the mayor that the city of Brockton create a fund for the marijuana impact tax fees to create a recreation and innovation center that substantially supports the youth, over 17,000 children of the city of Brockton. In City Council, February 22nd, 2021, read and referred to Standing Committee on Finance. That report was favorable.
If there's no further discussion, the question is on adoption.
Mr. President, sorry. May
That's
I
all right.
speak?
Yes, Councilor
Thank
Nicastro.
you. Thank you. Good evening. I just want to let all the counselors know that after our finance committee meeting, the morning after, I worked with our legislative council, and she and I drafted 2 orders which would address the concerns that came up at last week's finance committee. Specifically, one, to create that second stabilization fund for all marijuana revenues, and a second one to specify that all marijuana revenues would be divvied up according to the percentages that we had previously listed last year. And Councilor Rodriguez and Councilor Lally generously agreed to co-sponsor this with me. I didn't get it filed in time, so it will be filed tomorrow. And I just wanted to let everybody know that it's being taken care of. Thank you.
All right, the question would be on adoption by a roll call vote, or Councilor Nicastro, are you suggesting we vote on this at the next meeting and integrate what you've done, or?
No, I'm not. We should vote on this resolve tonight. I will have 2 orders going in tomorrow.
That's fine, thank you.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Clerk, go ahead. Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Azak,
Yes.
Cardozo,
Yes.
Cruz,
yes,
Eaniri,
yes,
Farwell,
Yes.
Lally,
yes,
Mendez,
Yes.
Monahan,
yes,
Nicastro,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
yes,
Thompson.
Yes.
11 in the affirmative.
The resolve is adopted. Item number 29.
Resolved that the mayor come before the finance committee to discuss establishing a committee on cannabis industry in the city of Brockton, comprised of residents and city councilors, to ensure that social equity and economic empowerment applicants have access to participate as licensed owners in marijuana operations in the city. Be it further resolved that city councilors recommend the establishment of this committee by the mayor. In City Council, February 22nd, 2021, read and referred to Standing Committee on Finance. That report was favorable.
Councilors, before we vote on this, I just want to make sure we know what we're voting on. We're voting on recommending the mayor appoint a committee of unknown number of people with no term of office, with no minimum qualifications. And we can certainly do that, but I just want to make sure that's the intent of the body. Because we haven't indicated we want them appointed for a 2-year term, a 1-year term, a 3-year term. We haven't specified the number of people that we would want the mayor to appoint. We haven't established any minimum qualifications. It's the will of the body. If there's no further discussion, we'll vote by a call of the roll. Councilor Cardozo, I see your hand up.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I know we had some discussions around this and it was some confusion about it, but we have to, I believe that this is something that the mayor can come up with. I don't know if it's something that the council, that's not how I envisioned, would set the number of people in the terms and all of that. So I don't know if Council Attorney Resnick can advise on, should we move forward with this as stated, or do we need to have that language? The other thing I would also mention is that we have a couple things on our agenda around deliveries coming up and around social consumption. So I think it's very important that we establish a committee like this so that they can advise us. The people that really are knowledgeable in this area can provide some good input for the council so that we don't find ourselves in the same situation we were during the retail marijuana situation. So I think it's important that we do establish something like this so that we can hear from folks that are well versed in this area. But again, I'm not sure if as written, do we need to include that language that Council President mentioned?
If you had any recommendations relating to the makeup, the length of the committee, how long they would meet, that would need to be included in your recommendation to the mayor. But in terms of its functionality, the committee powers are in the discretion of the executive, so it'd be up to him. Excuse me, the mayor.
Attorney Resnick, this might be the appropriate place for you to mention the webinar or seminar that you attended recently where Solicitor Bridges was one of the principal speakers. Because this resolve actually, I think, is a segue into what you picked up for information from that meeting. So could you just briefly outline what was discussed as it related to home delivery and social consumption and economic empowerment and social equity? Because I think we've actually developed quite a bit of expertise with Attorney Bridges, and with you accompanying her on listening into some of these, that's bodes well for the council.
Sure. As you may recall, during the finance meeting, Attorney Bridges stated that she was going to be participating in a panel discussion with the chair of the Cannabis Control Commission on Thursday. So I did sign up and I attended the training. And the chair of the Cannabis Control Commission gave like a very detailed overview of the changes in the delivery and social consumption and the different classes of delivery. And his comments were far more readable and user-friendly than anything I had seen online. And then following his presentation, the city solicitor, Attorney Bridges, presented, speaking on behalf of the municipalities, and gave her insight as to what the CCC regulations would look like if adopted by a municipality, and what that means in terms of host community agreements, what it means for public safety concerns, all of those things. So she was part of the presentation, and then there was one of the panelists from, I believe, East Hampton. He was the city planner there, and all of the progress that he's doing within his department to set up delivery in their communities. So Attorney Bridges was well versed on the changes in delivery, and I couldn't believe how much I had learned on that panel. And then the other thing that I think is really important that the chair did mention is that guidance for municipalities is actually not yet ready. It's in the pipeline. It's coming, but we were advised it's not ready. Be on standby. And if I was to make any recommendations, I would advise to wait until we have those municipal guidance from the CCC, because they're very telling of what our ordinances can and cannot do.
Thank you. Councilor Rodriguez, your hand is up.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I believe I voted against this resolve last time because, as I had expressed, I honestly feel that what we have done in the past is technically water under the bridge, and we've got new waters coming down the pipeline. But I believe the newly created committee of this body, of the City Council, to look into diversity, equity, and inclusion might be a perfect place for individuals and experts to be called and be invited to advise and provide expertise to the council, because we must remember that the council is the licensing authority of cannabis or marijuana in our city. So if we are going to be the ones that, I mean, it doesn't really matter what the mayor does, or it doesn't really matter what the other departments do. The final say is in the hands of the city council. So that being said, I believe that we as a body can empower that that newly created committee to look into the issues of what it was tasked to do in terms of diversifying certain things here in the city, to provide equity and also inclusion. So I believe that all this could actually rest in the hands of that committee as we move forward with this particular stuff.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Azak.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a question to our legislative council. I did support this. I did support this in the efforts that Councilor Cardoso has been, presenting this resolve. But my question to Attorney Resnick is, all our committees and commissions are by ordinance. So if this was to pass, wouldn't we create an ordinance that states how the committee is going to be made up and the terms, just like all our boards and commissions?
Yep. So the difference, I guess, the intent of this was to not be as formal and to kind of be like an ad hoc type committee. But in order to include members of the public and all of that, it was discussed that would be something that the mayor's office could do without having to change your ordinance and put a new committee on it. And so in order for the residents to be on the board, rather than it just be made up of the city council, that's why it was presented as a resolve to encourage the mayor to take the action.
So this would be totally in the mayor's hands as who would be on it and who would serve and the length of time. So it's the mayor's office, not anything to do. If it was to pass here, then it would totally leave us. Then it would be left up to the mayor's discretion to what he wanted to do with this.
Correct. It's a resolve. So the purpose of a resolve is to issue recommendations. So it's stating your legislative agenda to the executive branch.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome. Anybody else before I go back to Councilor Cardoso? Seeing none, Councilor Cardoso.
So if it's the will of the council, I would be happy to table this for now. I think that Councilor Rodriguez makes some good points. And I think the only reason we were working, this is part of our equity campaign, so to speak, to try to make sure that there's equity in this process. So it's just one more important piece where we saw during this whole last year that getting input from folks that are in the business and understand some of these guidelines from the state is very important. And so for me, it was just in the spirit of making sure we involve folks that are more involved than we are, because oftentimes we're not keeping up to date what's going on. But if our legislative council and our city solicitor are able to take part in these conversations more frequently and update us more frequently, and then we have established this diversity committee, if it feels better for the council to table this for now, I'd be open to that.
All right, councilors, what is your will?
I make a
Councilor.
motion to table this item.
Second.
All right, the motion has been made and properly seconded to table. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Azak,
Yes.
Cardoso,
Yes.
Cruz,
Yes.
Eaniri,
Yes.
Farwell,
Yes.
Lally,
Yes.
Mendez,
Yes.
Monahan,
Yes.
Nicastro,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
11 in the affirmative.
The matter is tabled. Item number 30.
Ordinance, an ordinance amending Article 2, Section 1.004 of the revised ordinances of the City of Brockton. Be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Brockton as follows. Section 1.004, regulation of marijuana sales, is amended by adding the following sections where appropriate. A, there shall be no more than 2 licenses issued for the delivery of marijuana products pursuant to the regulations promulgated by the Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission. Priority shall be given to an applicant for a license to deliver marijuana products who currently holds a license for the conduct of marijuana business within the city of Brockton. B, there shall be a moratorium on the issuance of any license to allow social consumption of marijuana for a period of 2 years from the date of adoption of this ordinance.
Referred to the Ordinance Committee. Item number 31.
Ordered that the city, pursuant to the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 44, hereby accepts as a surplus gift from the Brockton Housing Authority, Plot 9, Newbury Street, Map 53, Route 56. This is a parcel of land containing about 5,960 square feet and identified in Book 32024, page 319. The mayor is authorized to execute any and all documents necessary to effectuate such gift.
Referred to the Committee on Real Estate. Item 32.
Ordered that the city council hereby declare the city-owned parcel identified as parcel ID 118-157 as surplus and available for disposition. This is a parcel of land containing about 4 acres and identified in Book 40707, page 165. And that the mayor be and hereby is authorized to transfer ownership in said parcels to the Eros Realty LLC for the sum of $15,602. The mayor is authorized to execute any and all documents necessary to effectuate property transfer.
Referred to the Committee on Real Estate. 30
Ordered. I'm sorry.
No, my fault. 33.
Ordered acceptance and expenditure of donated funds from the Cape Verdean Association to be used towards the purchase of a new canine and equipment as needed for the Brockton Police Department in the amount of $1,000.
Referred to the Finance Committee. 34.
Ordered acceptance and expenditure of a donation in the amount of $50,000 from an anonymous donor to the City of Brockton Police Department.
Referred to Finance. Councilor Thompson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I make a motion to take agenda item number 35 under a suspension of the rules and for the council to act on this matter tonight for reasons as previously stated.
Second.
And
All
on the
right.
motion,
On the motion, Councilor Cardoza.
is there a match, Counselor Thompson, that you're aware of?
I do not, there is no match required for this grant.
Thank you.
All right, we vote first on suspension of the rules, which requires a 2/3 vote. Would the clerk call a roll?
Excuse me, Mr. President, my hand was up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Eaniri.
That's okay. My question is, and I don't have a problem with what we're doing here this evening, but I'd like to know when we as a council is going to see just what the whole plan is going to look like in back there, since there's a building going up in that same facility. I'd like to see the vicinity, I should say. I'd like to just see what and how everything is going to look. And do we have anything such in place, or are we just rush and so we can make sure we got the money? Is that what we're doing?
If I may, Mr. President, and through you to Councilor Eaniri, yes, there are drawn plans for this Sycamore Grove, and I'd be happy to email those plans to all councilors sometime tomorrow.
Yeah, I would appreciate it. I think I'd like to take a look at it. I understand the situation we're doing, but I'd still like to take a look at it as well. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Nicastro.
Thank you. Good evening. Through you, Mr. President, to Councilor Thompson, I'm interested to know, I mean, it's a good amount of money and it's only a 2-week delay. What is the rush that we have to take this under suspension tonight rather than hearing it and seeing the plans and going through the normal course of business?
Thank you, Councilor Nicastro. It was explained to me through the mayor's office that they requested that this matter be acted upon tonight. I'm not sure about the technical details about the expenditure. There may be some financial matters that I am not aware of, but it was conveyed to me by the mayor's office that they would like this matter acted upon tonight so they can meet whatever deadline is before them on the matter of this grant.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome. Council, is it, just as a note, it may be that we will not meet until the 12th of April after this meeting.
That could be
And
it.
I don't know if that's what
Okay.
impacting on the request to act this evening, but all of the points have been well taken. Anyone else? If not, we first vote on.
Mr. President,
Who am I missing?
Counselor Rodriguez has his hand is up.
Councilor Rodriguez.
Mr. President, what I like to do, because I too am a little concerned, and I want to make sure that there's some area businesses down there that will get affected one way or the other. What I'd like to do is probably entertain an amendment to this particular order that, yes, we can vote on accepting the funds, but prior to the funds being expanded, that the director or the executive director or whoever the title of Mr. May might be nowadays come before this body to explain exactly what the thoughts are with the expenditure of these funds before the funds can actually be expended.
So why don't we do this? Let's vote on suspending the rules first. And then if there is a motion to approve, someone could offer an amendment that would require Mr. May to appear before the council or to provide the council with all pertinent information regarding the expenditure of the funds, what will be accomplished prior to any expenditure actually being made. So let's vote on suspending the rules first. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Azak,
Yes.
Cardozo,
Yes.
Cruz,
Yes.
Eaniri,
Yes.
Farwell,
Yes.
Lally,
Yes.
Mendez,
Yes.
Monahan,
Yes.
Nicastro,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
11 in the affirmative.
All right, we have suspended the rules. We can act on this evening. It would now be appropriate to offer an amendment by a counselor to cover whatever concerns he or she may have. Councilor Rodriguez?
Well, Mr. President, I'd like to offer an amendment that we require Mr. May to come before this body prior to the expanding of the amounts that we just voted on tonight.
Second.
All right, there's been a motion made and seconded. We will need to communicate that by email to the clerk's office this evening, Councilor Rodriguez, so that he'll have it and he can incorporate it with the records. Does everyone understand the amendment? I think we do. If there's no further discussion, we now vote on the amendment. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Azak,
Yes.
Cardozo,
Yes.
Cruz,
Yes.
Eaniri,
Yes.
Farwell,
Yes.
Lally,
Yes.
Mendez,
Yes.
Monahan,
Yes.
Nicastro,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
11 in the affirmative.
All right, the amendment is adopted. We now proceed to vote on the order as amended. Is there any further discussion? If there is no further discussion, we will vote on the order as amended and the clerk will call the roll.
Azak,
Yes.
Cardozo,
Yes.
Cruz,
Yes.
Eaniri,
Yes.
Farwell,
Yes.
Lally,
Yes.
Mendez,
Yes.
Monahan,
Yes.
Nicastro,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
11 in the affirmative.
All right, the order as amended is adopted. Item number 36.
Ordered, acceptance and expenditure of the total grant award in the amount of $5,000 from the National Crime Victims' Rights Week Community Awareness Project Sub-Grant Award to the City of Brockton Police Department National Crime Victims' Rights Week Community Awareness Project Subgrant Award Fund.
Referred to the Finance Committee. Item 37.
Ordered, acceptance and expenditure of the total grant award in the amount of $9,240 from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Department of Public Health, Bureau of Substance Addiction Services, FY 2021 First Responders Naloxone Grant to the City of Brockton Police Department FY 2021 First Responders Naloxone Grant Fund.
Referred to the Finance Committee. Item number 38.
Ordered, acceptance and expenditure of the total grant award in the amount of $1,300 from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Department of Health 2021 Massachusetts Unwanted Opioid and Benzodiazepine Product Stewardship Program to the City of Brockton Police Department 2021 Massachusetts Unwanted Opioid and Benzodiazepine Product Stewardship Program Grant Fund.
Referred to the Finance Committee. Item 39.
Resolved that the Mayor, Building Inspector James Plouffe, and State Representative Michelle Dubois come before the Finance Committee to discuss the possibility of the city acquiring the Massasoit Conference Center for use as a multi-generational community center.
Referred to the Finance Committee. Item number 40.
Resolved to invite Brockton Fire Chief Michael Williams and Brockton Police Chief Emmanuel Gomes and/or their designated representatives to appear before the Standing Committee on Public Safety to discuss the impacts of COVID-19 on their staff, the operations of their respective departments, and their work in the community, including, without limitation, operational changes the departments embrace as the result of COVID-19 and future planning.
Referred to the Public Safety Committee. Item number 41.
Resolved to invite Brockton Fire Chief Michael Williams and Brockton Police Chief Emmanuel Gomes and/or their designated representatives to appear before the Standing Committee on Public Safety to discuss the impacts of sales of marijuana for medicinal and recreational use on the community work of their respective departments, including, without limitation, educating staff on applicable laws and regulations and the enforcement thereof, and future planning for the impacts of delivery of marijuana and social consumption in the City of Brockton.
Referred to the Public Safety Committee. Mr. Clerk, I believe you have a late file. Would you read it, please? No. From Councilor Cardozo.
Should there be a motion first?
You can do it that way. Councilor Cardozo, would you make a motion to admit a late file?
Motion to accept the late file?
Second.
Okay, would the clerk call the roll?
Azak,
Yes.
Cardozo,
Yes.
Cruz,
Yes.
Eaniri,
Yes.
Farwell,
Yes.
Lally,
Yes.
Mendez,
yes,
Monahan,
Yes.
Nicastro,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
11 in the affirmative.
Late file is admitted. Mr. Clerk, please read the late file.
Resolution to discuss COVID-19 recommendations of the Health Equity Task Force. Resolved, be it resolved that the Health Equity Task Force, established during the pandemic to provide oversight, guidance, resource coordination, and multilingual information to vulnerable constituents in the City of Brockton, be invited to come before the City Council to give updates on their work during the pandemic, current recommendations to the City of Brockton, and any ongoing efforts. Be it also resolved that the Workers' Safety Subcommittee give a report on their recommendations to the city to keep workers safe in their workplace here in the City of Brockton. Invited John Macia, Chairman of the Health Equity Task Force, and members of the Workers' Safety Subcommittee, Isabel Lopez, Lisa Fields, and Letitia Davis.
Referred to the Committee on Public Safety. Further communications.
Sorry, Mr. President, was that referred to finance?
No, it was referred to Public Safety. I actually wasn't sure where it should go, but under our ordinances, section 2-91, the Committee on Public Safety to consist of 5 councilors to consider all matters affecting the police and fire departments of the city and in general, matters affecting the public health or safety of the community. And that particular resolve focuses in on the public health and safety of the community.
So my intentions were just for them to give an update on their work this past year. And I just thought that it would be best to have it during our finance meeting because they've worked hard for a year and we haven't heard anything about their recommendations. So it's more, I don't know if it belongs in public safety. It's more to get a report on what their findings are and what recommendations they made to the city, but.
Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we send it to the appropriate committee? And then once we get a written report, which hopefully will be comprehensive, when it comes back to council, we could refer it to FinCom for further questions or to analyze the recommendations, cost implications, and when we could institute some changes. So it may
Sounds
be.
good. Will public safety be a public hearing? Does the public have access?
And it would be back at council chamber as well, Council Cardozo.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President.
Zach, you had your hand up.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, so I'm just also questioning, because number 40 you sent to FinCom, which is Chief Williams, the resolve with Chief Williams and Chief Gomes to discuss COVID-19, how it's impacted their staff. So that went to FinCom, but then these other, the 41 and the late file are going to public safety. So that's why I was
Well, the 40 went to public safety because it's to discuss the impacts of COVID-19 on their staff, which is health related.
I have 40 as FinCom.
right. That's what it was referred to FinCom. So I don't know. I just think that it would help to have it in front of the full committee instead of subcommittees, especially 41, since it's going to be discussed, since we're going in that direction. But
Actually, Councilor Azak, you're right. I read item 40 now, and on my agenda, it indicates it should be referred to public safety.
so these are all public safety? Okay.
And as a matter of fact, that's in the resolve itself.
Okay.
To
So
appeal,
40 public safety.
Okay.
it's actually in the resolve, but fortunately, well, I was going to give you an information update a little later, but we really have a lot of substantive issues that are coming to FinCom dealing with finance, and I didn't want some of these other important matters to be sidetracked and be drawn out. So by having public safety, and of course it's appropriate to use real estate, by having the various committees of the city council function and do their work and provide reports, I'm hoping we'll get caught up with what really is a fair.
And still, undisputed middleweight champion of the world.
Morning, all right?
I think it was Monahan.
Yeah, I was picturing, he almost fainted.
What's the matter?
Councilor Rodriguez, you have your hand up, so you can bring order to all of this.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too have a late file that's in the hands of our legislative council. So if Shannon could read that. Well, first of all, I have a motion to accept the
Second.
late file.
Again,
All right, motion made and seconded to admit a late file. Would the clerk call the roll?
Azak,
Yes.
Cardozo,
Yes.
Cruz,
yes.
Eaniri,
Yes,
Farwell,
Yes.
Lally,
Yes.
Mendez,
Yes.
Monahan,
Yes.
Nicastro,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
11 in the affirmative.
The late file is admitted. Would the clerk please read it?
Resolved that the City Council, in conjunction with its Legislative Council, establish an ad hoc committee to discuss and make recommendations for consideration by the City Council for amendments to the city ordinances and/or city charter relative to the functions, responsibility, job descriptions, and accountability of the positions of City Clerk, Assistant City Clerk, and Clerk of the City Council. Moises Rodriguez, Councilor at Large.
referred to the Committee on Finance. Mr. Clerk, any further documents to be admitted? Counselor Eaniri, you had your hand up. My apologies. Slow to react.
Hand up because I just want to make mention of something under council's recognition when you get to that part. That's all.
All right.
I know if you're ready for that yet.
Mr. Clerk, would you proceed with any further business?
That's all the items that we have at this moment.
All right, Counselor recognition. I think Counselor Azak, you had your hand up first.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would just like to remind all the counselors as well as everyone at home that this Thursday, March 25th, from 6 to 7:30 p.m., there will be a public safety complex public meeting via Zoom. This meeting is organized by the mayor's office. It has been posted on the city website. And this meeting will be a forum for the community members to learn more about the city's efforts regarding the complex. The webinar will have translation, so it will be translated in multiple languages. And if you want to find the Zoom link, just go on the city website. It'll give you the Zoom number so you can go on March 25th at 6 p.m. So we're looking forward to this. This is really just to make sure that the information sharing with the public. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Eaniri and then Counselor Cardoza.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to bring to the attention to the City Council as well, but also to people in Ward 3 and Ward 4 in a certain area, which is in the Rutland Street area, Market Street area, Warren Avenue area that makes up a majority of Ward 3, but also Ward 4. Councilor Nicastro and I have been working on having a meeting with people within that area. We're going to discuss a housing project that's going to be placed in Rutland Square area, which takes up 1.54 acres of Rutland Square. It's the old factory that's been there, Ingersoll company, many years. Now it's been vacant for many years, and we're trying to come up with making a project there of 56 apartments, and we'll have adequate parking spaces, 58 plus parking spaces for this to be built. It's very important. We want to let the people know. That's why we've teamed up to have this meeting. Meeting will be held from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. on Wednesday, March 31st. It's held virtually on Zoom. And at this point, we just hope that everybody will be receiving flyers in the mail. Pretty much they're all in the mail for areas within that section of the city. It's time we have to take a look at this particular building. We've done it in the past, but had other areas, but other concerns, I'm sorry. And we'll both be listening to any concerns that the people have, but we're hoping for a positive outcome of it because something needs to be done with it. So again, neighborhood meeting concerning that project, 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. Wednesday, March 31st, 2021. And again, it's going to be held virtually on Zoom. You'll be able to also get it on YouTube channel, which is our Brockton cable access, and that'll be live. So hopefully we'll have some people that will be listening in to the whole process, and the developer will be there as well. Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome. Councilor Cardoza.
Thank you, Mr. President. Last year, pre-COVID, the women of the council decided that we were going to recognize a couple of women in the community. Each of us would pick a couple in honor of Women's History Month. And unfortunately, COVID hit and we didn't have a chance to do it. So I just wanted to recognize a couple ladies in the community that I have citations for. One is Anita Lenny Montero with Sabuda Program, who's helped, tremendously during a pandemic, help families access virtual learning. And the other is Maria Tavares, who also is a great leader in the community. She helped so much with families with resources during a pandemic. So I wanted to wish everyone a wonderful Women's Month. We don't have a meeting next Monday, so I thought I would mention it tonight. And hopefully when we get back in person, we can present some ladies in the community with some citations, because I know the other ladies on the council had some other ladies in mind as well. So thank you, and happy Women's Month to all the wonderful women, the moms, the teachers, the nurses, the community activists, everyone, all of the great ladies in the community. Thank you so much, and happy Women's Month.
Thank you very much, Counselor. Counselor Nicastro.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. On Tuesday, next Tuesday, March 30th at 6 p.m., the continuation of the January 21st public hearing by the Planning Board on a proposed 40R development at 223-261 Thatcher Street within the Thatcher Street Smart Growth Overlay District will take place virtually on Zoom. It'll be a public hearing on Zoom, and for access to observe or to participate in the public meeting, the public may send an email to planning@cobma.us to obtain an invitation to the Zoom meeting. Plans and documents are available for review on the Department of Planning and Economic Development's public Google Drive, which is on the city website. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Counselor Nicastro. Other counselor recognitions? Anyone else? Counselor Cruz?
Thank you very much, Mr. President. It's with real mixed emotions, and I'm going to ask the city clerk to read a letter that I delivered to the clerk's office this afternoon, if you could read that. Still there, Eric?
Yes, I'm here, just looking for it. Oh, here it is.
Yeah, right there.
Okay, dated March 22nd, 2021, to City Clerk Anthony Zioli, Brockton City Hall, 45 School Street, Brockton. Mr. Zioli, please accept this letter as notification of my resignation from the Brockton City Council as Ward 1 City Councilor. This will be effective as of Tuesday, March 23rd, 2021. It has been my privilege and honor to serve the people of Ward 1 and the city of Brockton since 2006, and I look forward to other opportunities to be of service to the people of this great city. Thank you, Timothy Cruz, Ward 1 City Councilor.
Thank you very much. And I know I've spoken to all of you. I'm only going to speak for a minute because I'm afraid I'll break down. I've been serving on this body for 15 years and I love it. Obviously, I'm not leaving. I'm looking forward to working with all of you in a full-time vein in the near future. And I want to thank each and every one of you for what you do. And the public has no idea how much work every one of you does, and all the people I've served with for these last 15 years. It's amazing when I get a phone call oftentimes and people will say, is this your house? I thought I'd get your secretary. And clearly we all know there is no secretary other than sometimes your kids or your babysitter or your wife. And again, how much work we put in for these part-time jobs is amazing. You're an amazing crew of people. And again, everybody I've ever served with has been in this for the right reasons. We don't always agree with where we should go, but I can truly say that every one of you respect your opinions and I love working with you. I'm going to leave it at that so I can get out of here. I wanted to speak at the end so you wouldn't see me break down, but I'm going to miss being on the council and being a colleague, but I look forward to working with you all in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Again, and also I'd like to thank my family for all they put up, all of what our families put up with through the tough times. I want to thank them all. I love them.
Thank you, Councilor Cruz. Councilors, under General Laws, Chapter 43, Section 59A, and under our ordinances, it is necessary, it's required that we, as a council, order a special election when a ward council seat is vacant for more than 6 months. There is no choice in that at this point, and I did deliver a document because I knew Councilor Cruz's letter would be read tonight. I did deliver a document to the clerk, which I would ask him to read now.
In City Council, March 22nd, 2021. Whereas Timothy J. Cruz submitted a resignation from his position as counselor for Ward 1. Ordered, pursuant to the provisions of General Laws, Chapter 43, Section 59A, as appears, an election shall be held to fill said vacancy in the position of Ward 1 counselor. Section 59A. If a vacancy occurs in the office of mayor by death, removal, or resignation at any time during the first year of the term ending December 31st, the city clerk shall forthwith order an election to fill such vacancy for the remainder of the unexpired term. If a vacancy occurs during the second year of the term beginning January 1st, a meeting of the city council shall be called by the city clerk, and the city council shall elect by majority vote one of its members as mayor for the remainder of the unexpired term. If the city council fails to elect at said meeting or within 30 days thereafter, the president of the city council shall become acting mayor, shall exercise all the rights and powers of mayor, and shall be sworn to the faithful discharge of his duties. If a vacancy occurs at any time in the office of a councilor elected by and from the qualified voters of the city, such vacancy shall be filled forthwith by a majority vote of all the remaining members of the city council for the remainder of the unexpired term. If a vacancy occurs before the last 6 months of the term in the office of a councilor elected by and from the voters of a ward, the city council shall forthwith order an election to fill such vacancy for the remainder of the unexpired term.
So, councilors, it's necessary to vote on this order so it can be transmitted to the Elections Commission. I did this because I wanted everything above board, as Councilor Cruz did. We follow the law, we do what is required, and if there is no discussion, would someone make a motion to approve the order?
Motion to approve.
Before we do that, can we just do a motion to accept the late file?
Oh,
You're right. Could someone make a motion to accept the late file, please?
motion to accept the late file.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to accept the late file. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilor Cruz, are you going to abstain? I just don't want to read your name.
I am not resigning till tomorrow. It's dated
Okay.
tomorrow.
All right, sounds good. Azak,
Sorry, yes.
Cardozo,
Yes.
Cruz,
Yes.
Eaniri,
Yes.
Farwell,
Yes.
Lally,
Yes.
Mendez,
yes,
Monahan,
Yes.
DeCastro,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
It's 11 in the affirmative.
The late file has been admitted. It has been read. Would someone kindly make a motion to adopt the order?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved.
On the motion, Mr. President.
Yes, Councilor Rodriguez.
Mr. President, there's got to be, we have to hit, I think, the pause button here for a second when it comes to the city holding a special election. I mean, the fact that we're going through a real tough time in terms of dealing with this COVID and the effects that it actually has had on the taxpayers in this community. We have elections coming up in the beginning of September, primary elections in the beginning of September, and also municipal elections in November. I think there's got to be a way for us to avoid holding a special election of the entire Ward 1, knowing how expensive these elections can be. I believe that there's always an exception to the rule, and I believe that we should basically look into the possibility of having to do some other ways to forego the expenses that the taxpayers will be facing with us holding a special election. I know what the ordinance is saying from what you just read, but I believe that I can understand if we had a year to go and there were no municipal elections being held in the city this particular year, I can understand that. But being it so close, I mean, we're actually looking at elections taking place in September, and we are here almost into April in the sense, and within the next 4 or 5 months, we'll start the election cycle here in the city. I think it's something that we should take a deep breath and look at it to see if there's a possibility of us doing something other than subjecting the voters of this, the taxpayers of the city, the expenses of holding a special election. Thank you, Mr. President.
Through you,
Counselor,
Mr.
Counselor, I would defer to Attorney Resnick because she and I went back and forth on this issue. At this juncture, we're mandated to call for the election. That does not mean that someone could not sponsor a home rule petition, as they did in Boston, to try to extricate us from holding that election. The problem is the timing. I don't know how quickly the legislature would be able to accept whatever we send to them and then work it into their committee hearings and then have a vote. So if there's no objection, I'll defer to Attorney Resnick and ask her, are we not at this point under an obligation to call for the election absent some special state legislation that would allow us to negate that?
So right now you've submitted an order. So you have the opportunity to send that to committee instead of acting on it tonight. So you could send it to a committee and invite the elections commissions to come speak before the body and perhaps give some sort of oversight as to what their planning would be, what the cost would be, so that you have that information. But there's nothing in the ordinance that actually speaks as to when the election occurs. It doesn't say that it needs to be within the first few weeks. There is certainly some leeway. It's
to committee, but unfortunately, at the present time, the law does mandate that the council shall forthwith call for an election. Am I correct?
Correct. Yeah, but I think that I still think that it can pass through your normal operations, meaning go to committee, then come before the full city council. I can't say like you can just constantly table it and avoid taking the vote on it. What I mean is you're allowed to vet the order under your normal course.
Then I would suggest that maybe someone do that, but I do see Councilor Azak's hand up.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I'm not going to repeat everything that Councilor Rodriguez stated, but I hit what came out of his mouth is exactly what I was thinking. So I also agree this is not a good time to be spending money on a special election, and I don't feel we need to really rush this evening, like right this moment, as Attorney Resnick stated. So I would hope that we could, let this go through the process without rushing everything this evening, and make sure that we make the right decisions for the residents. Because as much as I'm going to miss Councilor Cruz on the council, I thank him for his service because I know that I learned a lot from him throughout the years that I've been on the council, and I know he'll still be there with his wise, with his judgment and his knowledge. So I think what we also have 4 at-larges. It's not like we're not going to have a quorum. So I think it's okay to take the time to go through the right process without rushing through this evening. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, anyone else? Councilor Cardoza.
Thank you, Mr. President. Attorney Resnick, can you clarify what you just stated about the election not having to happen right away? So does that mean we have some time? If it does go through the proper channels, do we have some time where we could go into now an appointment situation as opposed to a general election because of the time frame, the 6-month time frame?
Yeah, so since the resignation occurs before the 6 months, the ordinance calls for an election. But what I'm saying is your ordinance doesn't call for the timing of the election. So it doesn't say that it says the forthwith we shall order one, but it doesn't say that the special elections shall occur by June, July, or August. So that's why I'm saying you have the opportunity to bring your election commission in. They can explain to you what the process and how much time it would actually take them to be able to realistically, if they do hold the election, what that would look like. That your ordinance is silent as to when it occurs, but the election commission has certain obligations by state law. So they would be able to give you a more realistic presentation of their timeline.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor, if it's referred to FinCom, it would probably not be until Tuesday, the 20th of April, the Tuesday after Patriots Day, because we already have a very full plate for the 5th. So if someone makes a motion to refer it to Finance, I just want you to know that's when it would be placed on the agenda, and that would give our Elections Commission time to do some research.
Mr. President, I just have a quick question for Shannon, if I could.
Go ahead,
Mr.
Councilor.
Shannon, I think what you were reading in terms of the mayor's vacancy, we just went through this thing about a year and a half or so ago. You're saying that if a vacancy occurs within the first year, we hold a special election, but if it happens within the second year, then it's an election of the city council. But as far as the council is concerned, if it happens within the first year, or the ordinances aren't clear on that, if it happens in the first year, what happens and what happens in the second year?
No, so I'm saying that your ordinances are clear as to the process, whether it's appointed by the city council, like we did when your seat became vacant, or as opposed to an election. That part's clear. What I'm saying is your ordinance doesn't dictate when an election is triggered, how soon it must occur.
No, I'm not questioning the election, but I'm saying the method of the election, whether or not it's an election within the body or an election with the population itself. If the vacancy happened on the second year of the councilor's term, is there any clarification at all on that?
No, because it's actually measured by 6 months of the term ending. So that would be January or December.
But the term ends when the new council kind of takes on, right? So what I'm saying is that just like with my election, it was more than 6 months. It was actually 6 months and 4 days, I believe, or 6 months and 3 days, or whenever it was, and it triggered an election by the council. Why is that a little different than if it's 6 months plus 2 months, 6 months plus 3 days, 6 months plus 4 months? I mean, it's still
was
greater than 6 months.
Yours was different because you were a counselor at large. This is a ward position, so the ordinance actually distinguishes that as well. But the resignation occurs outside of a 6 month period. So if Councilor Cruz was to have resigned July 1st, then this council would have appointed his replacement. But because he's resigning prior to July 1, it's a special election under your ordinance.
Okay, Mr. President, I just wanted to let you know that I would be willing to sponsor a homeroom petition as to save the taxpayers of this money the cost of holding a special election in the city. And I'd be looking for any other members on the body to kind of co-sponsor that, so that at least we can give the taxpayers a little bit of a break before we go into the election season as far as we are concerned. Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilor Rodriguez, I would suggest you call Councilor Monahan, because he has requested a copy of the Boston home rule petition that they did for the mayor's vacancy, and I believe that could be adapted to a ward council position here in Brockton. So he was working on that this morning, but I have several other councilors. Councilor Eaniri.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Council President and I were even discussing this this morning, because I had somewhat of the same concerns that even Councilor Rodriguez had brought forth, and so didn't Council President Farwell as well. And I think he's doing it in the right way, being the council president. I think probably just the same way that Councilor Rodriguez and I would have done, as well as anyone else that's been president. The thing that just gets stuck in my head is that, come the first Monday in May, nomination papers are going out for the opening of the election process for this coming election season, and that's only 6 weeks away. And I think Councilor Rodriguez is right to a point. We're still in a position here in this city where we're trying to get people vaccinated, and I'm vaccinated. I'm old. I'm set. I'm all ready to go. Had a hell of a weekend, but okay, I got through it. But still, you got a lot of people that I don't think are going to be paying much attention to an election right off. I have even the concern for what it's going to be for those that are running for re-election through this next election process, with everything still the way that it's at. So You know, I even mentioned it to the president this morning, and I sort of take the same lane that Councilor Rodriguez is taking. I mean, and I think our legal counsel has said it right as well. Let's send it to committee. Let's vet it out. I'd like to see just what it would really cost to have that, because then, you know, you're going to be turning around and getting ready for the next election process as well. So it's just my feeling. I mean, I'm not a candidate for re-election, so, but still, I got the feelings for, you know, what the people may be thinking out there. You know, is this the right time or not? So I just wanted to hear my own opinion. Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilor Azak, I believe you're next. Oh, was your hand still?
Thank you. No, that's, I just want to, through you, Mr. President, to Councilor Rodriguez. So I will also sign on with that, with the home rule petition. I really think that's a route we should go. So whatever we need to do, I hope all the councilors will sign on to that. So thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome, Councilor Cruz, and then DeCastro.
Thank you. I just wanted to say, I'll leave it up to the will of the council, but one thing I think Attorney Resnick misstated just in her last, if the resignation was after July 1st, it would just leave the seat empty. It would not go to an appointment by the council. And just want to make sure that the public doesn't get confused on that. The date, and it would have to be really July 5th or so, because the term doesn't start till the first Monday in the next January, first Monday of the year next year. But it would not become an appointment of the city council at that point. It would just be left empty. And my belief is that where the city of Boston just got this exemption, I think the legislature would look very favorably on it. We would need to put an emergency preamble on the order, act as quickly as we can. But again, I've looked into this myself, and I agree with Attorney Resnick that there is no time frame. You know, you couldn't drag your feet forever and just decide you don't want to do it. But I think the common sense action here, personally, is to ask the legislature for an override on this, because we're talking about a month or two of difference, and I think it just makes the most sense. But at that point, I'll not vote and leave it up to the will of the council.
All right, Councilor DeCastro.
Thank you, Mr. President. Piggybacking off everyone else, is there any way that you can squeeze this onto the FinCom for April 5th? Because it just sounds like, you know, we need to move this along as quickly as possible. We need to know we need to be advised by the Elections Commission, and we have to get going on a home rule petition.
Yes, I'll meet with Erin Silva from the auditor's office and move it around. And you know, councilors, this is a perfect example of where the legislature ought to let local municipalities decide local issues and not try to have a one-size-fits-all across the Commonwealth, because we know best our financial picture, we know our people, and I think what Councilor Rodriguez, Councilor Azak, and everyone else has said, if we could spare ourselves from a special election, that would be the way to go. But the legislature is not fit to impose its will, if you will, in this area. And so I think we stand that we'll refer it to FinCom. I'll do my best to get it on the 5th, which would be fine. Is there any further discussion? I'm not trying to cut anyone off. Hold on a minute, I have a hand up. Councilor Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, I also agree that I believe a home rule petition is probably the best course of action in this matter. I did have one question, though. The home rule petition would leave the seat open until this coming election? Is that basically what we'd be requesting, or we'd be requesting that the city council appoint a temporary Ward 1 city councilor?
It would depend upon how the petition was worded, Councilor, but I would suggest that we mirror what through the legislature.
How do I do this?
Did you hear that, Councilor?
Sorry, no, it got mumbled there for a second. So
I said it will depend upon how it's worded. Obviously, Attorney Resnick would be involved, but I would suggest we mirror as much as possible the Boston Home Rule petition, because that's already been approved, signed by the governor, and I think we'd have a much more expedited process if we followed that very closely.
But didn't that rule call for their city council president to become acting mayor?
It negated an election. I believe their charter calls for the council president to succeed, but my understanding is that the home rule petition allowed them to avoid having an election for mayor. And here we're trying to avoid having an election for ward councilor. But again, I think this can all be hashed out with Attorney Resnick between now and the 5th, and the council meets again on the 12th. So we could have the home rule petition introduced. It could be acted upon under suspension of the rules if everyone's comfortable with the wording, and then forwarded on to the legislature.
Understood. Thank you for that clarification, Mr. President.
Councilor Cardoza.
So I'd like to hear from Attorney Resnick that would we vote on that as far as the seat staying open or an appointment?
Yep. So how a home rule petition works is we would draft it up, and however the council adopts it would then be submitted to the state for approval. So I'll do a little bit more research so that I have something prepared for submission for the meeting on the 12th. But I'll take a look, and it's up to the council on those types of designations. But I'll let you know what your options could be.
Okay, so just for clarity, on the 5th, if we were to hear this on the 5th, we would hear from the elections commission, and then we would then decide on whether this petition would be for an appointment or to leave the seat empty.
On the 5th, the discussion would be on the late file, which gives order to the election commission to call the special election. If that's held on the 5th, it might not happen until the last meeting in April. On the 12th, you would be seeking approval from the state to change your city charter so that special election would not be required.
So that's all it's going to say, but it's not going to address whether we leave the seat open or there's an appointment.
So the late file that would come from the election commission, correct. And as it is, a change to your state charter, to your city charter, would trump the order anyways. So
I guess I'm trying to understand, when will we decide on whether or not the seat stays open or there's an appointment?
If that would be through your home rule petition. So if the council's interested in acting on it the night that it's first read, I guess that would be the next city council meeting of April 12th.
Okay, we'll see how it plays out. I'm not convinced here.
I think a home rule position requires 2/3 vote, so.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I'm sorry, someone's speaking. Attorney Resnick, would you make contact with the appropriate member of our legislative delegation and find out the feasibility of this? They're going to know the legislature and legislative schedule and how these things proceed through the legislative process much better than we will, and certainly more so than our local elections commission. And I think that would be important information to have by the 5th of April.
I will.
Thank you. Further discussion, councilors? If not, is there a motion to refer to FinCom?
Motion to refer to FinCom.
Second.
All right, motion made, seconded to refer to FinCom. With the clerk call the roll.
Isaac?
Yes.
Cardozo?
Yes.
Cruz? Oops.
Yes.
Eaniri?
Yes.
Farwell?
Yes.
Lally?
Yes.
Mendez?
Yes.
Monahan?
Yes.
Nicastro?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
It's 11 in the affirmative.
Matter referred to finance. Any further councilor recognitions? All right, councilors, I'll have an update for you on improving the audio and video performances in the council chamber. You received an email from me, and I am most appreciative of the mayor and Bill Santos and BCA and others finally getting us to a point where I think we'll accurately reflect 2021. So if there is no further business, I wish all of you a great evening, and this meeting is adjourned.